Okay, it looks like we are live. I like to wait a second to make sure. This is Brenda Edelman, and this is the second episode of Tell Your Secrets on Stage. And there we are. It is live, and it is not making a noise, which is great. Hi, Mary Fran.
Hello, Brenda. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. We have known each other for many years now. Super cool. And we just found out we have a colleague friend of ours in common, Lynn Seraphin, who I stayed with her back in 2010 or 11 when I was doing my one-woman show in London and in England. So that means, yeah, we know her and we know each other for a pretty long time, not that long for us.
About 10 years, I'd say, almost 10 years.
Wow, I've been through several moves since then. And I have had the honor of working with you on several things and several occasions. You may have even, I don't know, maybe we met when I did one of my challenges on video or something like that.
Oh, the first thing I took was the Tell Your Story. You know, that an early.
Oh, it might have been like Shift Your Story or something like that.
Yes.
Oh,
it was
cool.
Excellent. Yes.
And I remember we were both redheads at the time.
Yeah.
I gravitated toward you anyway. So for those of you new to me and here, this is the second episode of my brand new signature show, Tell Your Secrets on Stage. Yesterday, I had a client, Susan Gala, on. And today I have another client, Mary Fran and Korb. And they're also both members of my membership community, Soul Story Lounge. And I thought I've been wanting to do a show for so long. I work with so many people who have amazing stories. And I was like, I should have this be a platform for my clients too, because I know they have secrets, things that were once secrets that they now literally change people's lives by sharing them. And so you stepped in when I'm like, all right, that's it. I want to start. I don't want to wait anymore on my dream. And so thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you, Brenda. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
You're welcome.
And I've gained so much from working with you. One of the things that people who know you already know is that your compassion makes anything possible. You know, really, you have such deep compassion and kindness and total acceptance. You know, that makes it possible to go on stage, because I'm somebody who doesn't like to be on stage and especially doesn't want to talk about myself. So you know, it's been quite a ride. And you know, and you also taught how to be more confident, you know, on video. And just giving me and others the opportunity to shine is such a gift. Really.
Thank you. I swear I did not pay these two guests to come on.
But
I wish I could.
Yes, I'm so grateful that you believe in me, you know, and that's what you do for your clients.
Thank you.
I recommend working with you to everybody, because even if you don't want to be on stage, like I don't want to be on stage, you get so much out of being with you.
Thank you. And, you know, I do remember working with you specifically on video because you have this, you know, you're a wonderful writer. You have these books, right? So you have 2 books?
Well, I have more. Yeah, I have 4 books. Actually.
Oh, okay. I feel like I only know about 2 of the books.
Yeah, the others are small books. The 2 that I don't talk about that much is how to start a successful writing group.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yes. And it's easily found on Kindle, and as is the other book. The other book is called From Illness to Wellness.
Oh.
And that's it's a ceremony for emotional strength, and it's for people going through long-term illnesses.
Wow. Okay. So right now, as your coach, I'm like, you need to have this out there because that's the whole point. These things, these stories can help people. And of course, I started working with you. You had already, I knew 2 books you wrote, and I was helping you like not tell your story on stage, but in a way, yes, tell your story on stage, but more video, because video is a stage too. It's more like television or something like that, but it is different than telling your story on a stage live, and it's different than writing your story. There's a difference between writing and presenting. And so it's been my honor to help you. And let me just read briefly. Hi, Susan. Susan's here. Oh, and Myra is here too. Oh, it's not letting you in the live stream. I'm not sure what that means, Myra, but I think with this, you would just be watching it here. So let me know if you're watching it here. It's not, yeah, you can't come into this interview, but hopefully you can watch it. So, and we'll end at 1:30 Pacific, around there. So let me just read briefly your bio. So Mary Fran is a relationship coach. Oh, there it says, authored 4 books, and including Breaking Through Concrete, The Gift of Having Mentally Ill Parents. And that's the story that I'm more familiar with you, for sure. And that's kind of a secret. It was once a secret. This is what I'm talking about when I say share your secrets on stage. It's like that was once a secret that you turned into something to empower you, in addition to other things that happened. Let me just share a little bit more. That book is an account of a child who developed strength through challenging experiences with a bipolar, disorganized, schizophrenic mother and an alcoholic, depressed father. And then and how you got through that. And former professions include English teacher and textbook writer, both things I didn't know either, which is super cool. So yeah, well, since we are talking about telling your secrets on stage, and the whole reason I'm motivated by this is because I had a big story. You know, a lot of people on this new show format have probably not heard it, but my father, who I adored, shot and killed my mother in 1995 and then married her sister, my aunt. And it was only in first witnessing that story on the page when I would write in my journals that I started to have real compassion for myself. And then I was already a professional actress, and then turning that into a storytelling exercise, an acting class, something I had to do. And I presented that in front of 100 people. I thought, oh my God, I'm going to die. Like everyone's going to judge me. Everyone's going to find out who I am. I don't even know how I'm going to do this, but I was guided to do it. And instead of judgment, I got accolades. Instead of judgment, I got people telling me that me sharing my story helped them heal, which gave me the motivation to turn that short piece into my one-woman show that I performed all over the world. Jumping into these crazy characters in my family actually helped heal me. And of course, it's a bigger process than that, but I just wanted to share that a little bit. So that's why I know sharing my secret on stage, healing it, helped me to the very core of my being and has helped tens of thousands of people. And so with you sharing your secret in books, which is a stage too, like, tell me what the process was like when you first decided, I'm going to share this, or any of the other stories or secrets you might want to share today.
Well, the process was that I was just writing it for myself. I wasn't going to share it. It was a story I was running from, really. That's what I realized when I was writing it, that the secret that my mother was, schizophrenic and bipolar, was everybody knew, it wasn't.
Who's everybody?
Well, I mean, neighbors.
And they knew, the neighbors knew.
Neighbors knew, the church knew, the people at church.
The people at your school know?
When they got to see her, yeah. They didn't know why she acted the way she did, but they knew something was off.
Let me ask you something. Was it something that you were ashamed of at the time or no?
Yeah.
Okay, so how did, yeah, I could imagine it's really hard. I had my secrets at home. Um, so how long after, like, you moved out were you able to say, I have to speak about this, I have to write about this or
Oh,
something?
I didn't talk about it until I was in my late 50s.
Wow.
I was really 60. In my 60s, I was writing about it. Yeah.
Wow. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. I'm so glad you finally got to that
Oh
though.
God, yeah.
So
Yeah.
let me ask you, was there a catalyst that had you say, okay, now is time? Because I know, people come to me after, I say on average 5 to 7 years of wanting to tell their story, and then they hire me to help them tell it. But there are people decades who haven't told their story. So was there a catalyst, one catalyst, more than one?
Right. The one catalyst was that my father died. And memories started coming up. So, and I was actually working with um, a woman named Coco Fosland. And so she was coaching. And I wanted to do something that would contribute to others.
Mhm.
And I thought I would write the book with the possibility of sharing it.
Right, right. Writing it for yourself because
Right,
you're still afraid.
right.
Yeah.
And I didn't publish it for like 10 years because I thought my relatives wouldn't like it, because my father was a really nice guy. He was a great guy.
Mhm.
Only he was too depressed to do anything about helping my mother.
Did he ever stop drinking or no?
I don't know. He was drinking up until the time I left.
But
Yeah.
you were younger when
I was
like,
17 when I
oh,
left.
17.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And you don't know if he was drinking after.
I would assume he was.
And
Yeah,
he was depressed. Was he depressed till the end of his life or?
yeah. He never got help for that.
Oh,
You know.
wow. And
No.
so it was his death that was the catalyst for
Yeah,
you to start looking at things.
yeah, yeah. I started realizing that my father had more to do with the dysfunction than I had previously acknowledged to myself.
Wow, that is a really huge insight because it's so often we can vilify one parent and
Yes,
not the other,
right.
especially when one is more overtly like
Yes,
hostile or
right in
aggressive.
your face, right.
That's a really big awareness.
Mm, yeah.
What did you do when you realized that he was part of the problem too?
I just kept writing, you know, and it was really sad because I adored my father. I was the only girl in between two brothers.
Mhm.
And so, I just thought he put the moon up in the sky. It was, because things functioned only because of him.
Right.
Wouldn't have functioned at all,
So
otherwise.
when you say you realized he was part of the problem, can you give an example of that?
Yes, in that whatever my mother did, he went along with it pretty much. And he allowed her to do things to harm us, you know? So we three kids were not safe.
Was that
And
emotional and physical?
yes,
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
thank
Yeah. When you realize that kind of sounds like a codependence between
you.
them.
Yeah.
Um, were you able, and you've been with me for a while, you've watched everything I teach and stuff like that. Were you able to like release your anger toward him in a healthy way? Did you go right to forgiveness? Like, what did you do? I think this could be helpful for viewers.
I think I reached sadness, like as I would write, I would almost scare myself with what was coming up,
Mm,
and so I would write for a bit and then stop and not write for a while and then go back.
right.
That was how I dealt with it. And I was sad about it. I there was some anger, But also I knew that his depression um, made him really afraid. He was afraid of my mother.
Right,
I do know that. And
right,
so he couldn't intervene for us.
right. He was dealing with his own survival.
Right, he was.
Well, it's really a difficult thing.
It
It's
was. And the other thing is that he was Catholic. We
Mhm.
were Catholic. And so when you're Catholic, you don't get divorced. And so he knew he was in this for the long run, and he couldn't see his way out. And when I was an adult, I went to him one time and said, I know about a man, a doctor. Um, uh, I'm trying to think of his name right now, a doctor who works with schizophrenic people who are really seriously ill. And I knew where this doctor was. My father wouldn't hear of going to him.
Huh,
In fact, when my mother was really bad, isn't it? When I was a teenager, one of the times that my mother was in really bad shape, I went to my father and said, "You've got to find a doctor." And I gave him the phone book and I said, "If you don't, I will." And he did. And
wow.
the next day, men in white coats were there and they took her away.
Wow, and that's you point out something really important there because it was like you had to take on the role of the parent
Yeah,
there in
yeah.
order to get him to do that. How do you think that affected you, having to be so fierce in how you communicated there?
How did it affect me? I don't know. I was just thinking I was doing what had to be done. Somebody had to do it.
Right,
And I think that since I was on my own, pretty much, raising myself, um, I saw my life as beyond where I was. I knew I had to get out, and I
right,
planned my way out, and I
right,
got out. And that's it helped me that I had to be independent, that I had to.
right, right. You didn't get crushed under it
Right,
because so
right.
many people could get crushed under the weight of that mental illness and
Well,
not being parented or having an adult that you could count on. Although it does sound like your father, you could count on him with other things.
yeah, yeah,
Thank God.
right. I mean, he
Yeah,
provided a roof over our heads,
right.
you know.
So
So
did he passed before your mother?
yes, yes.
And yeah, good.
So my older brother still lives at the house we grew up in. So my mother was there after my father died. So he really watched over her. He would send her to some senior services during the day, but he had her every night, and until she died about 2 years later.
Did that affect him, or how that affected him?
He just did what he had to do. That's all. You know, um, she did not want to go to a nursing home. You know, I suggested a nursing home, and she said, she was 88, and she said, they're just old people there.
Well, what's pretty interesting is that it fascinates me that sometimes people who could be really abusive still are in their home till the end. They have one of their children take care of them. It's really an interesting world, like sometimes it just baffles me that some people who are like wonderful and, really giving and they find themselves like lost or alone. And then sometimes people can be very abusive and yet at least their needs are, their basic needs are taken care of and stuff like that. It's one of the things that kind of confounds me, Did you have a relationship with her in the end?
Yeah, well, yes and no. Um, did I have a relationship? I always called. I called, at least every other week. And it was difficult because she would just go on and on and on. And, like she never saw me as a person.
Right.
But
So in a way, you had to have a strong sense of yourself if you were going to stay in that relationship.
yeah.
So what made you decide after you started writing everything and it took so long to get to that place that I'm going to share this publicly? Because this is what we're talking about, because so many people are like filled with shame or guilt, but they so want to share their story. And I really think that's the inner voice saying you are going to heal yourself more if you put this out there. But it's also why I teach technique and healing, so that you're not putting yourself out there, allowing yourself to be an open wound, instead of making sure that you have self-care going on and you're telling the story in a way that really does serve you and the audience.
Well, I had a lot of friends who knew that I had written a book, and they kept after me, and especially one, my friend Sheila Finkelstein, she would go after me all the time and even tell me different techniques I could use to get beyond my barriers, so
Right. Yeah.
And so then finally I just figured, hey, if it's, we'll see what happens, and I just put it out there.
And what is the response to the people who have read it that
Amazing. People have said that they actually had a parent who was like that. People who didn't know what the diagnosis was, what the reason was. They said, oh yeah, my parent had, bipolar, or my parent had depression, and they had experienced similar kinds of things.
So it was really helpful. And in your book, do you share tools at all about how to, I don't even know how come I haven't read it yet. I should have. Tell people how to get it.
It's on Amazon. And the name of the book is Breaking Through Concrete, The Gift of Having Mentally Ill Parents.
Okay, good. And maybe later we can get the direct link and post it in the this will be on my profile page, Brenda Edelman, and I'll repurpose it to YouTube and a few other places and stuff like that as well. So you have tools in there as well, like what helped you, or no, don't you coach too?
Yes, I'm a relationship coach.
Okay, so you've also, you do in the book, do you give some tools as far as what, like relationship with yourself, or a relationship to family members, or love relationships based on like what people's history is, or no?
It was more of what can come out of the tragedy of experiencing things like that. And it was like I got, my early years is when I had the difficulty, but then I feel like I had an easier time, after that.
Yeah, because it was all easy after
that. That's right. Anything is easy after that.
It is.
Although I married a man who had the wonderful qualities that my father had, and he had lots of other good qualities of his own. Great man. He happened to have depression also.
Right.
So that was a journey too.
Isn't that interesting how it's almost like we create things to heal, maybe?
I don't know. I think one of the things is that people who experience a person with mental illness in their early life have trouble distinguishing it, because that's what they know. They don't. So when they meet somebody else who has the same kind of mental illness, if any of them are the same, I don't know, but they don't see it because it's part of their experience.
Yes, I mean, I certainly could say for myself that my father, at the very least, lacked a lot of empathy. I mean, there's all kinds of labels that could be put on it: sociopath, narcissist, things like that. And I can definitely say that I had a string of relationship, not a ton, but I did have a string of relationships where I met people who, well, I'll just address the narcissist kind of thing, that when I was feeling lower self-esteem, um, they would hold me up on a pedestal like my father did,
Oh,
which would make me feel great.
mhm.
But like I learned with my father after my mother died and he just whoop, shut me out. I didn't know what that was because I didn't understand that someone could love you so much and then just shut you out until I studied psychology and learned about, narcissism and lack of empathy and stuff like that. And so then that repeated in some relationships, that I would attract people who seemed to think I was amazing. And then as soon as I didn't hold them as my hero, I was just cut out. And so I only in really deep looking at myself realized, oh, it's because that's a familiar quality,
Yes, right, right.
Yeah. So it's important. It's really important sometimes to look at your life and really, look at the dynamics so that you don't repeat patterns that you think is love because that's how you grew up, Really
Yeah.
important. So so I know you have a great story with your husband. We have a couple more minutes and then we'll bring it to a close, but is there anything you want to share about that as far as, he had depression, but then what happened?
Well, we did break up. We were apart, and he took medicine after a while, and he and I got back together again. We transformed our relationship. And
Well,
what?
just because I know a little bit of it, you broke up with him
Yes, yes,
and insisted on that. 'Cause
yes,
part of depression can sometimes be people don't want to take the medication.
yeah,
And then he
er,
took it
yeah, he did.
and it transformed things.
Yeah, but the thing was that we parted as friends.
That's amazing.
Well, and it was interesting because I was involved in a lot of groups. I always seem to find groups, but anyway, these people that I knew and people that I hadn't seen for years would get in touch with me and say, "Oh, the grapevine says that you broke up and you're friends. Tell me how you do that." And that was the start of my business as a relationship coach.
Oh, wow.
And then I wrote a book called Thriving in Partnership Beyond Struggle.
Did you write that book while you were separated or when you got back together?
After we got back together.
I just love that story because it shows so much strength and so much conscious awareness on both of your parts and courage. The fact that you were like, nope, I'm going. So many people are afraid to leave, the fact that you were able to go and then stay friends and then also have your heart open enough to open it to him once he did the work versus, I never say go back to people who are not, don't have remorse or regret and stuff like that. I just love that. I think it's I think you have a really unique perspective and so much depth that you can help people with because of that, And plus the other thing I hear is you have a lot of support around you, like you always do. And you're so loving. I mean, one of the descriptions I put was like, this is going to be an interview with a client who is so full of wisdom, but also so loving.
Oh, thank you.
Certainly over the years, I appreciate you always reaching out, through my ups and downs and all that stuff. Like, how you doing? Can I give you a prayer? It's like, yes, thank you. Which is really cool. It's really beautiful to be able to be that open, have that open heart and really be a contribution. So I want to let you know how much I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you for being who you are. Thank you for believing in me and giving me the opportunities. You are stellar.
I always want to see you on stage and sharing what you're sharing. So I just want to mention for people watching that I do, if you're here this week, this is June 28th on Tuesday, I am doing a completely free storytelling event called Storypalooza starting tomorrow, Wednesday, June 29th, 2022. It goes on through Friday. There'll be 2 free trainings using my soul story method. And also I'm giving completely free tickets to my critically acclaimed one-woman show, My Brooklyn Hamlet. And there will be a chance to go live with your story in my group on this Thursday and Friday, because I believe it's more important than ever to connect at this level. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to know who you really are. So when you sign up, you'll also get prompts and things like that, so that if you've wanted to tell your story, but you're terrified, it does not have to be terrifying. It can be really loving for yourself as well. Any last thoughts as far as what would you say to someone who might have what they call a secret? You know, because when I say tell your secrets on stage, it's not like tell your unhealed secrets on stage. What would you tell them, like, that could help them take one step forward with healing those secrets if they do want to tell it on a stage of any kind?
Well, the easiest thing, I think, even if you don't think you're a writer, is just to write it down. It doesn't have to be the whole story, but just an outline. And then work with Brenda to do the stage if you're up for that.
Yeah.
And really, I really highly recommend everybody who has a chance to watch your show. It is so inspiring. You know, it lifts you up. You know, it lifts anybody who watches it. What the human spirit can do, is what you exhibit and what you live. Just really hard.
Thank you. And it is why I'm gifting the 15 minutes, because it will show people it's not only a class in forgiveness, but through an entertaining way, but it's also kind of a class in presentation and acting and like all the stage time I have. I know that a lot of my clients watch my material over and over again so that they can kind of get that inspiration to go bold, you know, and be unapologetic and like, this is your life story. It's not anyone else's story. Nobody else. Who was I talking to today? That it's like nobody else is living in your shoes. You have a right to tell your story. And one of the things is I don't vilify anyone. I say tell the truth, but don't vilify. So it's not like tell your victim story. It's tell the truth of who you are so that you can heal, you can witness yourself, and you can help other people.
And it changes you to tell the story. It does. It changes you. You see yourself as the victor and not the victim.
Yes, that's for this episode, from victim to victor. Yesterday was trauma to treasure, tragedy to treasure. Today is victim to victor. I love that. All right. Thank you so much for joining me. I will see you in the Soul Story Lounge, my membership community. And have a beautiful day, everyone. And get ready to tell your secrets on stage.
Thanks, Brenda.